With a round of applause, can we please welcome Australian Ambassador to Nepal, Her Excellency Ms. Felicity Walk, for an encouraging speech.
Namaste. It's an absolute pleasure to be here, and I think what I'm most excited about is the buzz in the room, the sound of people chatting, students who are getting information, who are talking to each other, talking to education service providers. It's really exciting for me to hear that and to know that a number of the people who are in this room today are going to be heading to Australia to enjoy a world-class education. But let me start by saying a big thank you, first of all, to Director Raman Koirala and the extensive team at Nova Education and Consulting Services for the invitation to speak at this grand Australian Education Fair. It's absolutely wonderful for me to be able to work with trusted and reliable education agents as they assist students who are considering embarking upon an Australian educational experience. I would also like to pay my respects and regards to the range of very high-level representatives of the education sector who are here, the President of ARI, my friends who have spoken before me from ECA, and all of the education service providers who are represented here. Thank you for being part of this very important event. It's wonderful to have a chance to meet with you all. After 2 very challenging years, I'm delighted that we have reached a point where there is a clear path ahead for the return of Nepali students to Australia. Now, as you're aware, in December, Australia reopened its borders to vaccinated travellers as part of our step-by-step and safe reopening to the world. And while unfortunately we're now witnessing the rapid spread of Omicron across Australia, the Australian government remains committed to the policies that were initiated in mid-December, including welcoming international students back to our institutions. As has been mentioned, it's been a very frustrating past couple of years, and over those 2 years I've heard the frustration of Nepali students caught outside Australia and those who've wanted to travel to Australia for the first time, who have been held in this state of stasis, not able to do anything to further their educational experiences. I've also watched with concern the impacts on the welfare of our students, both within and outside of Australia. And I've been acutely conscious of the difficulties that students and their parents and education service providers have been facing. I'm conscious of this because I too have university-aged daughters. I have 2 daughters, one is 19, one's 20. Both of them are studying at universities in Australia. One is at ANU, one is at the University of New South Wales. So I've watched at very close hand the challenges of online learning and how mental health has been eroded by our path through the pandemic. I know these challenges have been magnified in the context of being unable to travel to the country in which you wish to study. So I can only imagine how difficult this has been for the students who we see around us today as they plan their future study. And I can tell by the sounds here that they're as excited as I am at the prospect of students being able to come back to Australia. I thought it might be useful to just briefly run through some of the specifics of the current arrangements in place before I turn more broadly to what Australia has to offer international students. As many of you are aware, fully vaccinated eligible visa holders, including international students, are now able to come to Australia without needing to apply for travel exemptions. As has been mentioned, the high vaccination rates in Australia and the extensive work undertaken across institutions, state governments and federal government to support the safe return of students to Australia All of these factors have combined to create an environment where Australia is able to offer a warm welcome and a safe welcome to international students who've received their visas and have been waiting to take up their programs in Australia. And this is a graduated reopening of our borders, and it recognises the benefits of resuming international travel and testing Australia's border systems and processes before the complete reopening occurs for international travellers. To access these new arrangements, travellers obviously have to be fully vaccinated with a completed dosage of a vaccine approved by Australia's Therapeutic Goods Administration. They must hold valid visas, they must be able to prove their vaccination status and present a negative PCR test. All of these are standard reopening procedures. Quarantine requirements in Australia are determined by states and territories, and students who are going to Australia will have to check these requirements as they prepare to leave. They must make themselves familiar with these arrangements in the state or territory to which they are travelling. Now, the Australian government has prioritised the return of international students because students make the most immense contribution to Australian society. And this is a turning point for Nepal and Australia to once again enjoy the many benefits of close people-to-people links fostered by our student exchanges. These links underpin the warmth and respect of a very long-standing bilateral relationship that now spans 61 years. We look forward to welcoming students back to our classrooms, campuses and communities. So to the students who are listening, what can you expect on your arrival? For all the difficulties of the past 2 years, the pandemic has been a disruptive influence that has not only brought challenges but it's brought opportunities. Australian institutions and government agencies have expended considerable effort in developing even more robust arrangements to support the international student population, including through welfare services and mental health support. Our health systems have been strengthened and demonstrated as second to none in managing health crises. And for Nepali students and for their families, and I know there may be some parents here, I would say that there is arguably no safer place in which to receive a high-quality education than Australia. High standards of social services and low rates of crime make Australia a very attractive destination. And this, of course, is in addition to Australia's credentials as a country that offers world-class institutions, many of which are represented here today, and the promise of an internationally transferable education. Australia's visa regime continues to permit 20 hours of work a week. At present, Australian businesses are reporting that they have a shortage of casual staff available to them because there have been so few international visitors with work permits in the country due to COVID. So my sense is it's probably a good time to be looking for casual work in many Australian cities. I do, however, urge students to continue to do intensive research as they're doing today before leaving for Australia, not just about courses, but about the costs and other aspects of life in Australia. Speak to friends who have already been there about what it's like to study, live and work in Australia. And I urge everyone to have a look at a very useful government website, www.studyaustralia.gov.au, for a breadth of information. I'm sure that there is no need to remind students of the important opportunity for many, depending on their courses, to work in Australia after the completion of their studies. It's a chance to get valuable work experience and professional development, as well as to build those professional networks that will support lifelong careers. And finally, Australia offers a smooth landing to Nepali students in terms of cultural and social life. There is something intrinsically similar in our approach to living, in our shared ethnic and cultural diversity, a casual and open approach, a love of good food and the great outdoors, and appreciation of community and concern for the environment. So Australia's doors are open again, and we are looking forward to welcoming more and more Nepali students back. We look forward to offering you a life-changing experience, a home away from home, and a world-class education. And as I've already said, I'm absolutely thrilled to be able to meet with some of the students, to meet with the education providers who are represented here, and to share the good news of reopening borders after 2 long and very difficult years for our very highly valued students from Nepal. Thank you, and Dhanyavad.